They all think I'm harmless, a lonely old man, lost in memories, fading quietly into the background. But what if I told you there's only so much a father can endure before the truth demands to be spoken? For years, I've kept silent, swallowed every slight, every dismissal, every time my son looked right through me. But today, I'm done hiding. Are you ready to hear what really happens when a father's patience finally runs out? Listen closely, because what I'm about to share will change the way you see everything. They call me Arthur, 78 years young, some might say. Most just see an old man, sitting on his porch, watching the world go by. They don't see the simmering resentment beneath the surface, the quiet rage that's been brewing for decades. They don't see the meticulous plan unfolding, a symphony of revenge played out in slow, deliberate movements. No, they see only the wrinkles etched onto my face, the slight tremor in my hands, the gentle sway of my rocking chair. They see a harmless old man. And that, my dear listeners, is precisely how I want it to remain. For now, my son, Mark. Mark. The apple of my eye, they used to say. The pride of the family, the one who would make something of himself, unlike his old, stubborn father. He was always so sure of himself, so quick to judge, so dismissive. The years melted away one after another, each one filled with subtle slights, careless words, and a growing chasm between us, a chasm that swallowed whole the love I had once so freely given. He always believed he knew better, always thought he could do things better, always saw me as an obstacle in his path to success. A relic of a bygone era he was eager to leave behind. He succeeded, of course. Mark has everything he ever wanted. A big house, a fancy car, a family that barely acknowledges me. He achieved the American dream, or so he believes. But I wonder, does he ever stop to think about the price he paid, the sacrifices made, the bridges burned, the father he left behind, slowly withering away, like an old oak stripped of its leaves by a relentless autumn wind? The truth is, the success he so readily flaunts is built on a foundation of neglect, a foundation I intend to crumble beneath his feet. This is my story, the story of an old man's quiet revenge, a story of calculated moves and long-awaited justice, and it's only just beginning. You see, I've been planning this for a very long time, and I assure you, the best is yet to come. It was a Tuesday, I believe. A perfectly ordinary Tuesday, the kind that bleeds into the next and the next, blurring the lines of time until you can barely distinguish one day from another. Mark came to visit, or rather, he deigned to visit. He arrived in his gleaming, expensive car, a stark contrast to my humble abode, a car that probably cost more than my entire house. He brought his wife, Deborah, and their 2 children, perfectly behaved, perfectly dressed, perfectly uninterested in me. We sat in my living room, the air thick with unspoken resentments and strained smiles. He spoke about his business deals, his investments, his latest vacation to some exotic island I couldn't even pronounce. He spoke of success, of wealth, of everything I didn't have. He spoke, and I listened, my silence a heavy weight in the room, a silent accusation hanging in the air. Then it happened. He gestured dismissively towards a small, hand-carved wooden bird sitting on my mantelpiece, a piece I'd whittled myself years ago. "Dad," he said, his voice dripping with condescension, "you really should get rid of all this old junk. It's clutter. You're holding on to the past. It's time to move on." He didn't say it directly, but the implication was clear. My entire life, my memories, my history, all junk are to be discarded. His words, casual yet cutting, were like a shard of glass piercing my heart. They were the final straw. That careless remark, that utter lack of respect ignited something within me, something long dormant, something powerful and unforgiving. It wasn't just about the wooden bird. It was about a lifetime of neglect, a lifetime of feeling unseen and unheard. It was about the slow, agonizing erosion of a father-son bond. It was the final confirmation that my quiet existence, my simple pleasures, held no value in his eyes, and in that moment, I knew the game was on. My plan, meticulously crafted over years of quiet observation and simmering anger, would now proceed at an accelerated pace. His casual cruelty had given me the impetus I needed. The seeds of revenge had been sown, and they were about to sprout. The room swam before my eyes. Mark's words echoed. each syllable a tiny hammer blow against the fragile structure of my composure. My carefully constructed mask of placid indifference shattered, revealing the raw, wounded heart beneath. A wave of nausea washed over me, a bitter taste of betrayal coating my tongue. Hurt, pure and unadulterated, clawed at my throat, choking the breath from my lungs. For a moment, I felt utterly broken, a discarded toy, cast aside by the very son I had loved and cherished. But then something shifted. The hurt morphed, hardening into something colder, something far more potent. Anger, a simmering resentment that had been building for years, erupted like a volcano, engulfing me in its fiery embrace. The years of neglect, the subtle insults, the constant feeling of being undervalued, it all came crashing down, a torrent of emotion threatening to overwhelm me. My hands clenched into fists, my knuckles white against the worn fabric of my trousers. I wanted to scream, to shout, to unleash the fury that had been bottled up inside me for so long. Yet I didn't. I sat there, outwardly calm, a storm raging within. The anger, however, did not consume me. It fueled me. It sharpened my resolve. It transformed into a cold, hard determination. This wasn't about childish spite or petty revenge. This was about justice. This was about reclaiming my dignity, my self-respect, my very essence. Mark's callous remark wasn't just an insult. It was a declaration of war. And I, the old, seemingly harmless man, would fight back. The hurt remained, a dull ache in my chest, a constant reminder of his cruelty. But it was now overshadowed by a steely resolve. I would show him. I would show him the price of his arrogance, his indifference, his utter disregard for the man who had given him life. The plan, already well underway, would now be executed with a newfound ferocity, a burning intensity born from the ashes of my wounded pride. He had underestimated me, dismissed me as irrelevant. He would soon learn the error of his ways. The old oak, stripped bare, was about to unleash the full force of its roots. The seed of an idea, planted long ago, now blossomed into a full-blown plan, fueled by a potent cocktail of hurt, anger, and unwavering determination. It wasn't a rash decision, born of impulsive rage. Oh no, this was a carefully cultivated strategy, honed over years of quiet observation and meticulous planning. It all started with the small, hand-carved wooden bird, the object of Mark's disdain. But it extended far beyond that single trinket. You see, I've always been a collector, not of riches, mind you, but of memories. Each item in my house, from the antique grandfather clock that had chimed through countless family celebrations to the worn leather-bound books that held the stories of generations past, held a piece of my history, a fragment of my life. They were tangible representations of my experiences, my joys, my sorrows, my triumphs, and my failures. They were more valuable to me than all the money in the world. And now, they would be the instruments of my revenge. My plan was simple, yet devastatingly effective. I would sell them. Not just a few items, but everything. Every cherished possession, every heirloom, every memory solidified into tangible form would be sold. The proceeds wouldn't go into a new bank account, a new car, or a luxurious vacation. No, my plan was far more insidious, far more satisfying. The money would be used to systematically dismantle Mark's carefully constructed life, brick by agonizing brick. I would unravel his empire, one carefully chosen investment at a time. It wouldn't be a hasty, impulsive act. This wasn't about immediate gratification. It was about a slow, agonizing unraveling, a carefully orchestrated symphony of destruction. I would quietly and strategically use the money to subtly sabotage his business ventures, discreetly undermine his investments, and gradually chip away at his carefully constructed facade of success. He wouldn't see it coming. He wouldn't understand the source of his impending ruin. He would simply watch, helpless, as his world crumbled around him, unaware that the architect of his downfall was the very father he had so readily dismissed. The old man, the junk, the irrelevant father. He would learn to regret his words, to regret his actions, to regret underestimating the quiet power of a broken heart. This was more than revenge. It was justice, meticulously planned and patiently executed. The auction house was my first stop, and the countdown had begun. The grandfather clock, a majestic piece of craftsmanship, stood sentinel in the hall for over a century. Its rhythmic tick-tock, a constant companion through countless family gatherings, birthdays and Christmases, would soon fall silent. Each chime held a memory, a moment frozen in time, a testament to generations past. To Mark, it was just an old clock, an outdated piece of furniture. To me, it was the heartbeat of our family history. Then there were the paintings, portraits of ancestors, their eyes seeming to follow me as I moved through the house. Their stern faces, their proud postures, their stories whispered through the brushstrokes. These weren't just paintings, they were windows into the past, connecting me to a lineage that extended far beyond my own lifetime. Each brushstroke held a story, a legacy, a family history Mark dismissed as clutter. The antique writing desk, where I spent countless hours writing letters, working on projects, and simply contemplating life, was another piece of the puzzle. The smooth, worn wood held the imprint of my hands, the ghosts of countless words written, the echoes of countless thoughts. It had witnessed my triumphs and my failures, my joys and my sorrows, my hopes and my dreams. To Mark, it was an old desk, an outdated piece of furniture. To me, it was a repository of memories, a testament to a life well lived. And the books, oh the books, stacks of them, lining the walls, each one a journey into another world, a different time, a different perspective. They were my companions, my teachers, my solace. They represented years of learning, exploration, and intellectual stimulation, a life of the mind that Mark never understood, never appreciated. They were windows into countless worlds, and now they would be sold, their pages turned for the last time within these walls. Each book held a story, a perspective, a treasure trove of knowledge that he had never considered worth his time. These weren't just objects, they were pieces of my soul, fragments of my life, echoes of my family's history. Selling them felt like carving away pieces of myself, like severing ties with my past. But this pain, this sacrifice, fueled my resolve. It was the price I was willing to pay for the satisfaction of watching Mark's carefully constructed world crumble beneath the weight of his own arrogance. The auction was set, and the time to enact my plan was fast approaching. The first step was the hardest. It wasn't the act of selling itself, but the emotional detachment required. Each item represented a piece of my life, a memory, a connection to my past. Yet, I steeled myself, reminding myself of Mark's words, his casual cruelty, his utter lack of respect. His disdain fueled my resolve, transforming my sorrow into a cold, hard determination. My initial research was painstaking. I spent hours poring over antique dealer websites, comparing prices, studying market trends. I learned about provenance, authenticity, and the subtle nuances that determined value. I became an expert, a connoisseur of my own history, evaluating each item not just for its sentimental value, but for its monetary worth. Each piece had a story, a history, a price tag, and that price tag would be the key to Mark's downfall. The contact with the dealers was done discreetly, anonymously. I used a P.O. box, a burner phone. I didn't want Mark to know what I was doing, not until it was too late. I described the items in meticulous detail, providing high-resolution photographs, highlighting their unique features and historical significance. I was playing a game, a high-stakes game of cat and mouse, and I intended to win. These weren't just transactions. They were strategic maneuvers in a larger battle. Each call was a small victory, a step closer to my goal. The dealers, impressed by the quality and rarity of the items, expressed their interest, some even traveling to my home for a private viewing. I played the role of a detached, emotionless seller, my voice calm and measured, my demeanor professional. It was a performance, a carefully crafted facade designed to hide the turmoil within. The thrill of the transaction was intoxicating, a dark pleasure that only intensified my determination. Each sale was a step closer to the ultimate endgame. The money started rolling in, deposited into an account I had specifically created for this purpose. It wasn't the money itself that mattered, it was the power it represented, the power to reshape Mark's life, to dismantle his empire, piece by agonizing piece. The initial steps were complete, the foundation laid. The next phase would be far more challenging, far more complex, but I was ready. The game had begun, and I was already several steps ahead. The day the dealers arrived was a strange mixture of anticipation and dread. The house, once filled with the warmth of family memories, now felt cold and empty, a mausoleum of my past. Each item, carefully wrapped and labeled, was a tangible piece of my history, a fragment of my life, ready to be shipped off to a new owner, a new life. It was like surgically removing pieces of my soul, each transaction a sharp, cutting pain. As I handed over the grandfather clock, its familiar weight in my hands, a wave of nausea washed over me. The rhythmic tick-tock, once a comforting presence, now felt like a mocking reminder of time slipping away, of memories fading. The buyers, professional and efficient, showed little emotion. They admired the clock's intricate details, discussed its historical significance, but their words were hollow, lacking the warmth, the understanding, the personal connection that I felt. With each item sold, a part of me died. The paintings of my ancestors, their eyes seeming to follow me with silent judgment, vanished from the walls, leaving behind gaping holes. The antique writing desk, the silent witness to countless hours of work and contemplation, was loaded onto a truck, leaving behind an emptiness that echoed the hollowness in my heart. Each sale was a tiny death, a symbolic sacrifice on the altar of my revenge. Yet, even in the midst of this emotional turmoil, a strange sense of satisfaction crept in. It wasn't the money, although the steady influx of funds was a tangible measure of my progress. It was the knowledge that each sale was a small victory, a strategic blow against Mark's arrogance, his indifference, his callous disregard for the man who had given him everything. My anger, my hurt, my wounded pride fueled my actions, pushing me forward, pushing me to complete my plan. But there were moments of doubt, moments of wavering. The memories, the family history, the tangible links to my past were irreplaceable. The pain of parting with these precious objects was real, a raw, visceral ache that ran deeper than any satisfaction I derived from my revenge. The conflict between my anger and my affection for these memories was a constant internal battle, a war waged within the confines of my own heart. But the anger, the hurt, the burning desire for justice ultimately prevailed. The final item was ready to be sold, and with it the final chapter of my revenge. Meanwhile, Mark remained blissfully unaware of my actions. His life continued its relentless upward trajectory, a stark contrast to the quiet dismantling of my own. He called occasionally, his conversations brief, superficial, filled with boasts about his latest business deals, his extravagant purchases, his social triumphs. His words were coated in a layer of self-congratulatory smugness, a stark reminder of his callous disregard for my feelings. He never inquired about my well-being, never asked about my life, never expressed any genuine concern for my health or happiness. His calls were transactional, fleeting moments of obligatory contact, devoid of warmth, devoid of affection, devoid of any genuine human connection. He was too busy, too important, too preoccupied with his own success to bother with the mundane details of his father's life. I listened to his pronouncements of success with a chilling sense of anticipation. Each boast, each extravagant claim, fueled my determination. His obliviousness was a testament to his self-centered nature, his complete lack of empathy. He was a man consumed by his own ambition, blind to the pain he inflicted on those around him. His nonchalant attitude was almost comical in its audacity. He was building his empire on the very foundations I had laid, on the sacrifices I had made, on the life I had dedicated to his upbringing. And yet, he treated me as an insignificant footnote in his narrative of success, a mere inconvenience, an old man to be tolerated, but not respected. His ignorance was a weapon, a tool I would use to my advantage. He would remain oblivious until the very moment his carefully constructed world began to crumble, until the weight of his actions, his indifference, his arrogance, finally crushed him. His obliviousness was a shield, protecting him from the truth, from the consequences of his actions. But that shield would eventually shatter, revealing the full force of my meticulously planned revenge. His blissful ignorance was a temporary reprieve, a fleeting moment of tranquility before the storm. Auction day arrived like a storm, a culmination of months of meticulous planning, of carefully orchestrated maneuvers. The auction house was a cavernous space, filled with the hushed whispers of bidders, the rhythmic fall of the gavel, the palpable tension of anticipation. I sat in a discreet corner, observing the proceedings with a detached curiosity, a cold, clinical detachment that belied the turmoil within. My possessions, the tangible remnants of my life, were displayed under bright lights, each item meticulously catalogued and described. The grandfather clock, the paintings, the writing desk, each piece held a memory, a story, a fragment of my past. Yet, as I watched them being handled, examined, appraised, a strange sense of detachment washed over me. They were no longer mine. They were commodities, objects to be bought and sold, their history reduced to a series of numbers and dates. The bidding began, a chaotic ballet of numbers and gestures. The prices climbed, exceeding my expectations, each increment a small victory, a step closer to my ultimate goal. I watched as the clock, the symbol of our family history, was sold for a king's ransom, its rhythmic tick-tock soon to echo in a stranger's home. The paintings, the portraits of my ancestors, were snapped up by enthusiastic collectors, their stories now destined to adorn the walls of unfamiliar houses. The writing desk, the silent witness to countless hours of my life, fetched an unexpectedly high price. I saw a flicker of recognition in the eyes of the buyer, a subtle nod to the desk's history, its significance. But it was a fleeting moment, a brief acknowledgement of the past before the desk was whisked away, its memories to be erased, its stories to be rewritten. With each item sold, a piece of my past vanished, replaced by the growing satisfaction of my revenge. The auction was not merely a sale, it was a strategic dismantling of Mark's life, a slow, methodical erosion of his comfort, his security, his smug sense of superiority. It was a meticulously planned act of retribution, and I watched with cold satisfaction as my plan unfolded, piece by piece. The auction concluded, leaving behind a chilling emptiness and a profound sense of satisfaction. The auction progressed, a relentless tide of bidding wars and hushed transactions. Then, amidst the flurry of activity, I noticed him. He wasn't like the other bidders, the slick art collectors and wealthy investors. He was older, his face etched with lines of experience, his eyes holding a depth of understanding that transcended the superficiality of the auction room. He was different. He didn't bid aggressively, didn't flaunt his wealth, didn't engage in the theatrical posturing of some of the other participants. His bids were quiet, measured, almost hesitant, yet resolute. He watched the items with a thoughtful intensity, a quiet appreciation that resonated with me. There was a familiarity in his gaze, a recognition of the history embedded within each object. As the bidding for the grandfather clock intensified, I saw him raise his hand, his bid a quiet counterpoint to the flamboyant offers of the other bidders. He didn't shout, didn't gesture wildly. His movements were understated, yet powerful. His bid was significant, far exceeding the previous offers. It was clear he understood the clock's value, not just its monetary worth, but its historical significance. The same pattern repeated itself with the paintings and the writing desk. Each time, he entered the bidding late, his offers calm and deliberate, yet consistently higher than those of his competitors. It was as if he understood the unspoken story behind each item, the emotional weight, the family history. He wasn't just buying objects, he was acquiring pieces of a life, a legacy. I watched him, intrigued, fascinated. Who was this man? What was his connection to my family, to my past? His presence introduced an unexpected element of complexity into my carefully crafted plan. Was he an ally, an unwitting accomplice, or a threat? His actions hinted at a deeper understanding, a hidden connection that I couldn't quite fathom. His presence was a wild card, a variable I hadn't accounted for in my calculations. The game, it seemed, had taken an unexpected turn. The final item, a small, intricately carved wooden box containing my father's letters, was brought forth. It was the last tangible link to my past, the final piece of my history. As it sat on the auction block, bathed in the harsh glare of the lights, A wave of emotion washed over me. The years of planning, the meticulous execution of my revenge, the emotional toll it had taken, it all culminated in this moment. The bidding started slowly, hesitant, almost respectful. Then the mysterious bidder from earlier entered the fray, his bids measured, deliberate, yet firm. He seemed to understand the significance of the box, the stories it held, the weight of the legacy it represented. The competition was fierce, the tension palpable. The price soared and exceeding all expectations. Finally, the gavel fell, the sound echoing through the auction room, marking the end of an era, the conclusion of a chapter. The box was sold, the final piece of my past relinquished. A profound sense of emptiness settled over me, a hollow ache that resonated deep within my soul. The satisfaction of revenge was there, a bitter, bittersweet taste in my mouth. But alongside the satisfaction, a chilling realization dawned. My revenge had been complete, but at what cost? The emptiness in the auction room mirrored the emptiness in my heart. I had systematically dismantled my son's life, but in doing so, I had also destroyed a part of myself. The victory felt hollow, tainted by the sacrifices I had made. The money, the financial windfall from the auction, felt insignificant compared to the loss. The weight of my actions pressed down on me, heavy and suffocating. Had it been worth it? The question echoed in the silence, a haunting refrain in the aftermath of my meticulously planned revenge. The answer, I knew, would remain elusive, a constant companion in the lonely years to come. The news reached Mark like a physical blow. It wasn't a gradual dawning, a slow realization. It was a sudden, brutal impact, shattering his carefully constructed world. He'd received a frantic call from his business associate, a man whose name he barely remembered, informing him of the auction, of the sale of his family heirlooms. The pieces clicked into place, a horrifying mosaic of betrayal and calculated revenge. His initial reaction was disbelief, a stunned silence punctuated by the frantic beating of his heart. He couldn't comprehend it, couldn't accept the reality of his father's actions. The man he considered distant, irrelevant, a relic of the past, had methodically, deliberately dismantled his life. The carefully constructed empire he'd built, the symbol of his success, was now built on the ruins of his family's history. His anger was immediate, explosive, a volcanic eruption of rage and hurt. He hurled accusations, blaming everyone but himself, his voice a torrent of self-pity and indignation. He railed against his father's cruelty, his betrayal, the injustice of it all. He was blind to his own role in this tragedy, to his own callous disregard for his father's feelings, his own contribution to the simmering resentment that had finally erupted. The shock gave way to a chilling realization. His father's actions weren't random, impulsive. They were calculated, precise, a meticulously planned act of revenge. He saw the pattern, the systematic dismantling of his life, the deliberate targeting of his assets, his connections, his very identity. He was left with the horrifying realization that his father's love, his father's sacrifice had been repaid with callous indifference, and now, the ultimate act of betrayal. The weight of his father's actions pressed down on him, crushing him under the burden of his own guilt and shame. The carefully constructed facade of his success crumbled, revealing the emptiness beneath, a void filled with regret and despair. He was left with nothing but the ruins of his empire and the agonizing truth of his father's revenge. The silence that followed was deafening, a stark testament to the devastating impact of his father's actions. The initial shock subsided, replaced by a slow, agonizing realization. Mark began to understand, to truly grasp the depth of his father's pain, the years of neglect, the sacrifices unacknowledged, the love unreturned. His anger began to dissipate, replaced by a crushing weight of guilt. He saw himself, not as a victim, but as the architect of his own misfortune. His success, once a source of pride, now felt hollow, tainted by the knowledge of his father's suffering. The opulent surroundings, the symbols of his achievement, mocked him, highlighting the emptiness of his life. He had chased wealth and status, blind to the emotional cost, oblivious to the pain he had inflicted on the one person who had loved him unconditionally. The memories flooded back, fragmented images of his childhood, moments of neglect, of dismissive words, of unspoken resentments. He saw his father's quiet sacrifices, the unspoken love, the unwavering support that he had taken for granted. He recalled his father's tired eyes, the lines etched by years of hard work and unacknowledged pain. The realization hit him with the force of a physical blow. He had not only hurt his father, he had betrayed him. Regret gnawed at him, a relentless, consuming force. He longed to undo the past, to erase the hurtful words, to mend the broken bonds. He wanted to express his remorse, to apologize for his callousness, for his arrogance, for his utter disregard for his father's feelings. But the opportunity was lost, vanished like smoke in the wind. The damage was done, irreparable. The emptiness of his life, once a void filled with ambition and self-importance, was now a desolate landscape of regret and remorse. He had everything he had ever wanted, yet he possessed nothing of value. His father's revenge, though devastating, had served a purpose. It had forced him to confront the truth, to acknowledge his own failings, to understand the consequences of his actions. The path to redemption, if there was one, was long and arduous, but he knew he had to start walking it. The gavel fell, the final item sold. A wave of satisfaction washed over me, a cold, bitter tide that left me shivering. It wasn't the triumphant joy of victory, not the exhilaration of revenge fulfilled. It was something far colder, far more desolate, a grim satisfaction born of years of neglect, of unspoken pain, of a love betrayed. The money, the financial windfall, meant little. It was the knowledge, the undeniable fact that I had exacted my revenge, that my son, the man who had spurned me, had finally felt the sting of my pain. The thought was a bitter tonic, a dark solace in the emptiness of my life. I had meticulously planned this, orchestrated every detail, transforming my hurt into a weapon, my grief into a strategy. Each sold item, each piece of my past relinquished, was a brick in the wall of my revenge, a testament to my unwavering resolve. The auction room, once a place of hope and dreams, had become my battleground, the stage for my carefully choreographed act of retribution. But even as the satisfaction washed over me, a chilling undercurrent of bitterness flowed beneath. The emptiness in the auction room mirrored the emptiness in my own heart. My revenge was complete, yet I felt nothing but a profound sense of loss. The victory was hollow, the taste of retribution bitter and unsatisfying. The years of planning, the meticulous execution of my scheme, the emotional toll it had taken, it all culminated in this moment, leaving me with a sense of profound emptiness. The satisfaction was fleeting, overshadowed by the crushing weight of my actions, the realization that my revenge had come at a price far greater than I could have ever imagined. The bitterness was a constant companion, a chilling reminder of the sacrifices I had made in the name of revenge. The silence that followed the final gavel blow was deafening, a testament to the hollowness of my victory. The auction concluded, leaving me with a hollow victory and a gnawing sense of unease. It wasn't just the emptiness, it was the identity of the mysterious bidder. Days later, a lawyer contacted me, revealing the buyer's name, Eleanor Vance. The name triggered a distant memory, a faded photograph in a dusty album. Eleanor was Mark's estranged wife. The revelation struck me like a bolt of lightning, shattering the carefully constructed framework of my revenge. I hadn't anticipated this twist, this unexpected consequence of my actions. Eleanor's acquisition of the heirlooms wasn't a random act. It was a calculated move, a counter-offensive in a silent war I hadn't even known existed. Her actions spoke volumes, a silent testament to a conflict far deeper than my own with Mark. It seemed the auction wasn't simply a battle between father and son. It was a battle for the soul of a family, a fight over a legacy tainted by secrets and betrayals I was only now beginning to understand. The heirlooms, I now realized, were not merely objects, they were keys, unlocking a hidden narrative of unspoken grievances and long-buried resentments. Further investigation revealed a complex web of deceit and betrayal, involving not just Mark and Eleanor, but also a long-hidden family secret, a secret that explained the coldness in Mark's eyes, the distance in our relationship. The secret, once revealed, painted a grim picture of familial dysfunction, of broken promises and shattered trust, of a history marred by deception and manipulation. This unexpected twist transformed my revenge from a simple act of retribution into a tangled drama, where the lines between victim and perpetrator blurred. My actions, intended to hurt Mark, had inadvertently exposed a far greater truth, a festering wound within the family that had been concealed for years. The satisfaction of my revenge was replaced by a chilling realization. I had only scratched the surface of a far more complex and devastating story. The consequences of my actions extended far beyond my initial intentions, reaching into the lives of others in ways I could never have predicted. The initial satisfaction of my revenge, the cold comfort of retribution, began to fade. The unexpected revelation of Eleanor's involvement, the unveiling of the family secret, triggered a shift within me, a subtle tremor in the hardened landscape of my heart. The bitterness remained, but it was now intertwined with a new emotion, a hesitant, reluctant empathy. Mark's actions, though unforgivable, were now viewed through a different lens. His neglect, his callous indifference, were no longer simply acts of cruelty, but symptoms of a deeper malaise, a family sickness that had infected us all. I saw him not just as the son who had rejected me, but as a man wounded by the same forces that had shaped my own life, a man caught in the web of our shared history. The emptiness that followed my revenge was a vast, echoing space, but it was no longer solely filled with bitterness. A small seed of compassion began to sprout in the barren ground of my resentment, a fragile plant, pushing its way through the cracks of my hardened heart. It was a slow, painful process, this thawing of my emotions, this reluctant softening of my resolve. The memories of my son's childhood, once tinged with anger and resentment, began to take on a new hue. I recalled his hesitant smile, his childish attempts at affection, the unspoken vulnerability behind his arrogant facade. These memories were like forgotten photographs, dusted off and brought back to life, revealing a side of him I had long ignored, blinded by my own pain and resentment. The thought of Mark, consumed by guilt and regret, stirred a complex mix of emotions within me. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but a glimmer of understanding, a recognition of the shared burden of our broken family. My revenge, I realized, had not healed the wounds. It had only exposed them, laid them bare for all to see. The path to healing, to reconciliation, was uncertain, but the possibility, however faint, was beginning to emerge. The cold satisfaction of revenge was slowly giving way to something else, a hesitant hope for a different future. The meeting was inevitable. Mark arrived, not with the arrogance of our last encounter, but with a hesitant humility that surprised me. He looked older, wearier, the lines etched deeper into his face. The weight of his guilt was palpable, hanging heavy in the air between us. The silence stretched, a thick and uncomfortable blanket. There were no accusations, no recriminations, just a shared understanding of the damage we had inflicted upon ourselves and each other. The years of silence, of neglect, of unspoken resentment, hung between us like a tangible barrier. He spoke first, his voice low and hesitant, a stark contrast to the confident pronouncements of our previous encounters. He confessed his remorse, his regret, his shame. His words were not an attempt to justify his actions, but a desperate plea for understanding, for forgiveness. He spoke of the emptiness of his success, the hollowness of his achievements, the crushing weight of his guilt. My response was not immediate. The years of pain, the festering wound of his neglect, were not easily erased. But as I looked into his eyes, I saw not only the regret, but also a flicker of the boy he once was, a boy I had failed to nurture, a boy I had inadvertently pushed away. My own words came slowly, carefully chosen. I didn't offer forgiveness. Forgiveness is a process, a journey, not a destination. But I offered something else, an acknowledgement of his pain, a recognition of our shared responsibility for the damage we had inflicted. We spoke not of blame or retribution, but of understanding, of the complex tapestry of our lives, of the wounds that ran deeper than simple acts of neglect or revenge. The confrontation, I realized, was not the end, but a beginning, a fragile first step towards a reconciliation that just might be possible. The air, once thick with resentment, began to clear, a tentative peace settling between us. The quiet aftermath of our confrontation left me wrestling with my own demons. The bitterness, though lessened, still lingered, a phantom pain in my heart. My revenge, meticulously planned and executed, had achieved its goal. But at what cost? Had I truly won, or had I simply traded one kind of emptiness for another? I looked back at my life, at the choices I had made, the path I had chosen. Had my relentless pursuit of revenge been a misguided attempt to fill the void left by a son's neglect, a desperate attempt to regain a sense of control in a life that had spiraled out of my grasp? The question hung heavy in the air, unanswered, a nagging doubt that gnawed at my conscience. The years of resentment, the carefully constructed wall of bitterness, had shielded me from the truth for far too long. Now facing the consequences of my actions, I saw the flaws in my own character, the mistakes I had made, the opportunities I had missed. My relationship with Mark, once defined by pain and resentment, was now a complex tapestry woven with threads of shared responsibility, of mutual hurt, of unspoken regrets. Had I been too quick to judge, too eager to condemn? Had my own pride, my own unwillingness to compromise, contributed to the chasm that had grown between us? The answers weren't simple, but they were inescapable. My actions, while born of pain and justified by years of neglect, had not healed the wounds. They had only deepened the scars. The path to reconciliation, I knew, would be long and arduous, fraught with challenges and setbacks. But the faint glimmer of hope that had emerged from the ashes of my revenge was a beacon, guiding me towards a future where forgiveness, understanding, and perhaps even healing might be possible. My self-reflection, painful and unsettling as it was, offered a glimmer of redemption, a chance to rebuild, not just my relationship with my son, but also my own fractured sense of self. The weight of my revenge settled upon me like a heavy cloak, a constant reminder of the price I had paid. It wasn't just the emotional toll of the conflict, the years of simmering resentment, the pain of betrayal. It was the profound emptiness that followed the satisfaction, the hollow echo of my victory. The meticulously crafted plan, the calculated moves, the strategic dismantling of my son's life, all of it left me feeling drained, depleted, a hollow shell of the man I once was. Sleep offered little respite. My dreams were haunted by images of the past, of Mark's childhood, of the moments of connection that had been lost, of the opportunities that had slipped away. The faces of my ancestors, their silent judgment hanging heavy in the air, seemed to reproach me for my actions. The weight of their legacy, of the family history I had so carelessly disrupted, bore down upon me, a crushing burden of guilt. The quiet moments of the day were the worst. The silence amplified the echoes of my past actions, the whispers of regret that gnawed at my soul. The once cherished possessions, now gone, were replaced by a constant ache in my chest, a void that no material object could ever fill. The emptiness wasn't just a physical sensation, it was a profound spiritual emptiness, a hollowness that seemed to permeate every aspect of my being. The physical manifestations of stress were unmistakable. My appetite waned, my sleep was disrupted, and the simple act of breathing felt like a monumental effort. My body, once strong and resilient, now felt frail and weary, worn down by the emotional turmoil that had consumed me for so long. The revenge I had so meticulously planned and executed had left me not victorious but broken, a testament to the destructive power of bitterness and resentment. Even the tentative steps towards reconciliation with Mark did little to alleviate the burden. The weight of my actions, the indelible mark they had left on my life and the lives of others, would remain with me, a constant reminder of the destructive power of revenge, a painful lesson etched into the very fabric of my being. The price of my revenge was far greater than I could ever have imagined. The path to acceptance, to forgiveness, was not a straight line. It was a winding road, filled with twists and turns, with moments of doubt and despair, punctuated by fleeting glimpses of hope. The weight of my actions, the consequences of my choices, remained a heavy burden, but it was a burden I was learning to carry with a different kind of resolve. Forgiveness, I realized, wasn't about condoning Mark's actions, about erasing the pain he had inflicted. It was about releasing myself from the shackles of bitterness, from the prison of resentment that had held me captive for so long. It was about acknowledging the shared responsibility for the fractured state of our relationship, about accepting the part I had played in the breakdown of our connection. This acceptance wasn't a sudden epiphany, a miraculous transformation. It was a slow, gradual process, a painstaking unwinding of years of accumulated pain and anger. There were days when the bitterness returned, when the memories of Mark's neglect threatened to overwhelm me. But those moments were becoming less frequent, less intense. Their power diminished by the growing strength of my resolve to move forward. Forgiving myself was even more challenging. The weight of my actions, the knowledge that I had caused pain and suffering, hung heavy upon my conscience. But I began to understand that dwelling on my mistakes, on the errors of my judgment, would only perpetuate the cycle of hurt. True forgiveness required accepting my imperfections, acknowledging my flaws, and recognizing that I, too, was a victim of the circumstances that had shaped my life. The process of healing was not solely about forgiving Mark. It was about forgiving myself, about accepting my own fallibility, and about embracing the possibility of a different future. The path ahead remained uncertain, the road to reconciliation still long and arduous, but the journey itself, the gradual release from the grip of bitterness and resentment, was a source of unexpected peace. The possibility of forgiveness, both for myself and my son, offered a glimmer of hope, a promise of healing, a chance for a new beginning. The fragile peace that settled between Mark and me was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a fragile flower pushing its way through the cracked earth of our fractured relationship. It was a tentative beginning, a hesitant first step on a long and uncertain journey. The bitterness lingered, the scars remained, but there was a new awareness, a shared understanding of the pain we had inflicted upon each other. Our conversations were hesitant at first, punctuated by silences filled with unspoken regrets and unspoken hopes. But gradually, the silences lessened, the words flowed more freely, and a tentative trust began to blossom. We spoke not of blame or retribution, but of shared memories, of lost opportunities, of the complex web of family dynamics that had contributed to our estrangement. We acknowledged our mistakes, our failures, our shared responsibility for the damage that had been done. There were no easy answers, no simple solutions, but there was a growing sense of mutual respect, a recognition of the pain we had both endured. The journey towards healing was far from over, but the first steps had been taken. The weight of the past remained, a constant reminder of the errors we had made, but it no longer felt like an insurmountable burden. The possibility of a new chapter, however fragile it may be, offered a glimmer of hope, a beacon in the darkness. The prospect of a future where understanding and forgiveness might prevail, where the wounds of the past could begin to heal, was a powerful motivator, a driving force that fueled our tentative steps towards reconciliation. The road ahead was undoubtedly challenging, fraught with potential setbacks and obstacles, but the shared desire for a better future, for a relationship built on mutual respect and understanding, gave us the strength to continue on our journey. The new beginning was tentative, uncertain, yet profoundly hopeful. It was a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit, to the capacity for forgiveness, and to the possibility of finding healing even in the deepest wounds. The most profound lesson I learned, the one that resonated far beyond the immediate conflict with Mark, was the critical importance of communication. Years of unspoken resentments, of bottled-up emotions, had fueled the flames of our conflict, creating a chasm that seemed impossible to bridge. Only through honest and open communication, through a willingness to confront our fears and vulnerabilities, could we begin to heal the wounds of the past. Mark, in his own way, learned a similar lesson. His initial success, his carefully constructed life, had left him feeling empty and unfulfilled. The emptiness he felt was a direct result of his neglect, of his failure to nurture the relationship with his father. He learned that material success, however dazzling, could never compensate for the absence of meaningful human connection. Our journey towards reconciliation was a testament to the enduring power of love and forgiveness. It was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, to our capacity for empathy, and to our ability to overcome even the most deeply entrenched conflicts. The pain we had inflicted upon each other was undeniable, but the possibility of healing, of rebuilding our relationship on a foundation of mutual respect and understanding, was a powerful force that propelled us forward. The lessons we learned extended beyond our personal relationship. They were lessons about the importance of family, of the enduring bonds that connect us, even when those bonds have been severely strained. They were lessons about the destructive nature of resentment, the corrosive power of bitterness, and the healing power of forgiveness. These lessons were hard-won, bought with the price of pain and regret, but they were lessons that would stay with us, shaping our lives and our relationships in ways we could only begin to imagine. The journey continues, but the lessons learned along the way will serve as a guide, ensuring that the path we walk together will be one of healing, understanding, and enduring love. The emotional aftermath of our conflict was a long and arduous journey, a process of healing that continues to this day. For me, the initial sense of satisfaction I had felt after enacting my revenge quickly dissipated, leaving behind a profound emptiness and a deep sense of regret. The weight of my actions, the knowledge of the pain I had caused, weighed heavily on my conscience. Sleep became a battlefield of restless nights and haunting dreams, populated by ghosts of the past. Therapy became my lifeline, a safe space where I could confront my demons and begin the long process of healing. Mark's journey was equally challenging. The destruction of his carefully constructed life, the realization of his own failings, left him reeling. He carried the burden of guilt, the weight of his neglect, and the profound sorrow of a fractured relationship. His path to healing involved confronting his own flaws, accepting responsibility for his actions, and rebuilding his life, not on the foundation of material success, but on the foundation of genuine human connection. Our individual journeys of healing were intertwined, our paths converging and diverging as we navigated the complexities of our relationship. There were moments of doubt, of despair, of setbacks that threatened to derail our progress, but we persevered, fueled by a shared desire for reconciliation, for a future where understanding and forgiveness could prevail. We learned to communicate honestly, to confront our vulnerabilities, and to embrace the imperfections that make us human. The scars of the past remained, indelible reminders of the pain we had inflicted upon each other, but they were scars that served as a testament to our resilience, to our capacity for growth, and to the enduring power of love and forgiveness. The road to healing was long and winding, but the destination, a future where our bond could finally flourish, was worth the journey. The question of whether we have achieved true peace is complex. It's not a simple yes or no answer. The scars of the past remain, etched deeply into our memories. There are moments, even now, when the bitterness resurfaces, when the ghosts of our conflict threaten to overshadow the progress we've made. But those moments are fleeting, their power diminished by the strength of the bond we've painstakingly rebuilt. There's an understanding now, a shared awareness of the pain we inflicted upon each other, and a mutual acceptance of our imperfections. We acknowledge the mistakes we made, the choices that led to our estrangement. There is no erasing the past, no undoing the damage that was done, but there is a willingness to learn from those mistakes, to build a future based on mutual respect, trust, and genuine affection. Our relationship is different now, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring power of familial bonds. It's a relationship built not on the shaky foundation of resentment and revenge, but on the solid bedrock of communication, forgiveness, and a shared commitment to healing. It's a relationship that acknowledges the lingering shadows of the past, but embraces the light of a brighter future. The peace we've found is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of understanding. It's a quiet peace, hard-won and deeply cherished. It's a peace that recognizes the complexities of our relationship, the lingering wounds that may never fully heal, but also the strength of the bond that has survived the storms. It's a peace that allows us to coexist, to support each other, to love each other, not in the idealized way we once imagined, but in a way that is real, imperfect, and ultimately more profound. The journey continues, but we walk it together side by side, striving for a future where the lessons learned will guide our steps and illuminate our path. The final chapter is still being written, but the story, as it stands, is one of resilience, forgiveness, and the enduring power of family. Looking back, I see a life filled with both triumphs and regrets, a tapestry woven with threads of joy and sorrow, success and failure. My relationship with Mark has been the most complex thread of all, a tangled skein of love, resentment, and ultimately, forgiveness. The revenge I sought, fueled by pain and a sense of betrayal, proved to be a hollow victory, a fleeting satisfaction that quickly dissolved, leaving behind a bitter residue of regret. The meticulous planning, the calculated moves, the cold satisfaction of watching my son's carefully constructed world crumble, none of it brought me the peace I craved. Instead, it left me hollow, burdened by the weight of my actions, haunted by the knowledge of the pain I had inflicted. The emptiness I felt was a stark contrast to the love I had always harbored for my son, a love that had been buried beneath layers of resentment and unspoken grievances. The path to reconciliation was long and arduous, filled with moments of doubt, despair, and the lingering specter of past hurts. But through honest communication, through a willingness to confront our vulnerabilities, and through the enduring power of forgiveness, we began to rebuild our relationship. It's a relationship that is different now, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring strength of family bonds. It's not without its challenges, its moments of friction, its reminders of the past, but it's a relationship built on a foundation of understanding, mutual respect, and a shared desire to create a better future. My final thoughts are not of bitterness or regret, but of hope and acceptance. Hope for a future filled with peace and understanding, and acceptance of the complexities of life, of the mistakes we make, and the capacity for forgiveness that lies within the human heart. My life, with all its complexities and contradictions, has taught me the profound importance of family, of the enduring bonds that connect us, and the transformative power of love and forgiveness. And though the scars remain, they serve as a reminder of the journey we've taken, a testament to the enduring strength of our bond, and a promise of the brighter future we are building together. The story of my life, and the relationship with my son, is far from over. It continues to unfold, a testament to the enduring human capacity for change, growth, and the unwavering power of love. Maybe you see a bit of yourself in this story, a wound left unspoken, a silence that weighs more than words. Or maybe you've been on the other side, chasing success while someone waited quietly for a call that never came. I don't have easy answers, but I know this. Sometimes, sharing the truth is the only way to break the cycle. If you've ever felt invisible, or if you've ever wondered how a single gesture can change everything, share your story in the comments. Let's give a voice to those memories we keep hidden,